carried in a fever, hotter than a pepper sprout. We've been talking about Jackson ever since the fire went out. We're going to Jackson, and that's a fact. Yeah, we're going to Jackson and never coming back.
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of At the Music Store. And this is a little show we put together where we talk to some of my friends in the entertainment business, some great entertainers that have been performing for a long time. And for those of you that caught our first show, of course, we were in the rock and roll world with the Shaw Band, with Mike Shaw, Greg Mueller-Liley joining us on this program. And today we are going into the world of, well, we got a country legend with us today, Sherwin Linton and his lovely wife Pam. We're going to be covering just a few of the highlights of a great career that they have and continue to have during our time together. And again, you're going to hear a lot of stories. You're not going to hear a lot from me, but we're going to kind of dig deep and see what we can find out from the Lintons. So first of all, Sherwin, it is so good to see you again, buddy.
Good to see you. Thank you.
It's been a while, Pam.
Yeah.
Great to have you here.
Great to be here in Hutchinson. What a wonderful day.
We were talking a little bit off camera. Speaking of Hutchinson, I told Sherwin the very first time that I saw him was at the old Garden Supper Club Velvet Coach out on Highway 7.
Yeah. Bob Dom was the owner, one of them anyway, and that was in '65 when we played there.
And I should say, this is great. We're not only going to get in on the conversation, but Sherwin and Pam are going to do a couple of tunes for us as well throughout our time together. All right, let's just start from the beginning. As much, I know you can't tell us every detail, Sherwin, we'll start with you, but where did it all begin for you?
I grew up in South Dakota. My dad worked for the Great Northern Railroad. He was a section foreman, and we lived in a lot of small towns out there, I mean, towns of 100, 200 people. And he would take that position, and sometimes, by the time I was 12, 13 years old, I'd already lived in 6 or 7 different towns, little towns. When we lived in the little town of Hazel, I always liked music, of course, and had a wind-up phonograph and when I was about 4 or 5 years old, and then my parents bought a nice console electric phonograph, and that was really special. That was about 1947. So we put the 78 records on there and play them. And,
thick records.
Yeah. And anyway, one day my dad brought home a record by Lefty Frizzell. There was a man that worked on the crew for my dad, Kenny Asher, and he played guitar and sang. So I asked my dad if he would ask Kenny if he would teach me how to play. So I went up to his place, and he had a couple of guitars and loaned me one and showed me some chords. And then wasn't too long after, there was a lady there in the town called the Yodeling Cowgirl.
Okay.
Her name was Teresa, and she had a radio show, and she had me on her radio show. So by the time I was when I was in 8th grade, we actually moved into Watertown, where my dad took the job, section foreman job there. And then with me being there, it was a bigger high school, of course, and I kept on practicing and learning what I could on the guitar. I was out for football, and
What position?
I think I was a tackle.
Okay.
Anyway, the lineman, Rich, his name was, grabbed me and said, "You got to get in there and block. I can't get through if you don't get." And I said, well, I hurt my little finger, and look, it still is there. And I had sprained my little finger, and I said, I hurt my finger. He said, little finger? I'd break my leg to win a game. And I thought, well, I guess you would. So I went to the coach and I said, Rich has got the kind of attitude it takes to win in this game. I don't.
Yeah.
So I think I'll just turn my stuff in.
Yeah, but you knew how to win in the music business. And that's,
Yeah,
so did you have a band in high school then?
yeah. So anyway, I decided I needed to do something where I had the same kind of passion as Rich had
Exactly.
for football. So I went home. I had a car, 51 Studebaker, and I turned my stuff in and went home. And my mom says, "What are you doing home?" And I said, "Well, I quit football." She says, "Quit? Quitters never win." You know, that's not. She didn't invent that, but anyway. I thought she would be happy because kids got hurt pretty bad back then playing football. So anyway, I got my guitar and put it in my car, and she said, "What are you doing now?" I said, "I'm going to go out to the radio station and get a job singing on the radio." I already knew the manager there, and I'd been on some shows there a few times, so I put my guitar in the car and went out to the radio station. Well, I asked to see the manager, and I talked to him, said I had an idea to do a radio show where I'd have students on there and interview them and then play a little bit with my band. I had a little rockabilly band called the Rocketeers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So he said, well, come out and cut an audition tape, you know, 15-minute, and I'll listen to it. So a couple days later, I came out there and did that, and then he called me and said, well, we'll give you a 15-minute or an hour show on Sundays here, where I'd interview kids and then play a little bit with my band. And within a couple of weeks, he had me do a country show on Saturday too. So I was getting my start there, and that opportunity to play and sing on the radio and have my own show really was a launching pad for me. I had the little band, but then that gave me a chance for some exposure.
Sure.
And it was when I was on the radio, then I was able to negotiate jobs playing dances around that area. I was booked up pretty well with doing that.
Now, that was the Rocketeers and the Fender Benders.
That was before the Fender Benders.
Yeah, but when did you get the Fender Benders together? Was that
Well,
was that the next step?
I
after
had the
Rocketeers?
Rocketeers when I was in high school.
Yeah.
That's what I called the band, and it would be me and the bass player and playing upright. We'd get the bass out of the orchestra pit in high school. Whoever was available, there was, but 3 or 4. Anyway, usually 3 or 4 of us would go out and play dances in small towns around there, and so that gave me a chance to start getting an opportunity to play and sing live and make some money at it, you know. And,
But then when you moved to Minneapolis and you went to radio announcing school,
yeah, then
that's when you started the Fender Benders.
I was a part-time announcer, so I was in the music area. It was a great launching pad for me being at that radio station. When I got out of high school, I wanted to go to radio announcing school because I figured that would give me an opportunity to even learn more. And they had Brown Institute in Minneapolis, which was a radio school. So
right down on Lake Street.
yeah,
I went
that's
to,
right.
I went to Brown Institute as well.
Yeah.
Well,
So I enrolled in there and came down here when I got out of high school. And then I started a band here too. And after about 3 months in that school, I decided I wanted to have a band, and
Sure.
so I didn't finish the announcing school. I felt like, having had a couple years experience live on the air when I was in high school there in Watertown, I think I knew more than some of their graduates did. Of course, when you're 18, you know a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. We know pretty much everything at that age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I got myself into the element of performing on the radio some. I got some opportunities in Minneapolis to play on radio shows and some TV shows, and then I started my little band there. I'd had the Rocketeers in high school, whoever was able to play and available, and then when I moved to Minneapolis, I found musicians there and started a group called the Rocketeers there. But then one day we were playing, and by then I'd gotten a Fender Jazzmaster guitar, and I used to throw it up in the air and bend it over my knee and all that, and somebody hollered up, "Yeah, bend that Fender." I thought, well, that's a good idea.
Well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye. That'll be the day when you make me cry. You say you're gonna leave, you know what to like, 'cause that'll be the day when I die.
So I named the band the Fender Benders.
Oh, and you have always been the ultimate showman. I remember that.
Yeah.
So why not? Now, the Fender Benders, now, I'm probably going to, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you play, was it the Frontier Club? Didn't you have like a standing gig there for a long time, for quite a few years?
Yeah, we played, well, a lot of places in Minneapolis, and then in 1961 I got into the Flame, which was a big, that was like, they had 4 bands in there, 2 rooms. The front room, they had what they called a stage bar, which was a stage up behind the triangular bar. My band and another band would take half-hour shots playing there, and then when we were not playing there, they had a main dining room where they had all Grand Ole Opry stars.
I mean, anyone who was country at the time,
that was
the Flame.
Yeah. So there was 4 bands in this Flame Club, 2 in the front, and then a full house band in the back, plus a star. Every week they had a star from Nashville or the West Coast. Buck Owens, Hank Snow, Ernest Chubb, everybody that was a famous star played in there for a week at a time, doing 3 shows a night. So that was an amazing place. And it was a great place to be in, and give me an opportunity to meet and do shows with all these stars from the West Coast and Nashville. And that got me familiar with these people. And by the mid-60s, I was invited to play down in Nashville. So I went down there, and then I got a recording session with the Glazier Brothers, who were Grand Ole Opry stars. And they produced some records for me, and we came up with a song called Cotton King. And that kind of became a signature song for me.
They call me lucky little rich boy, got everything. He's the son of a cotton king.
I changed the name from the Fender Benders to the Cotton Kings.
And it still is to this day.
We've been Cotton Kings ever since.
And now, speaking of success with the Cotton Kings, getting to that point, in the 70s, you had another song. Cotton King was big, but When She Cries.
When She
That got
Cries.
an awful lot of attention back in the mid-70s.
And I had a novelty song called You Men Are All Alike. And
and a novelty holiday song.
Santa Got a DWI, which was became a million seller. a Christmas novelty number. Santa got a DWI for waving around in the sky.
Yeah, I remember that one. And also, just keep it in the mid-70s for a second, not only When She Cries, but you yourself were up for like the Entertainer of the Year, were you not, from the Country Music Association?
I was nominated.
You were nominated.
I didn't.
Yeah, but
I
that's
didn't-
huge.
Nominated for Male Vocalist of the Year and Entertainer of the Year, and that
Yeah.
happened 2 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
2
remember
years.
that. And then When She Cries hit big
Yes.
maybe a year or two later, if I remember right, mid-70s,
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that.
That was a beautiful song. Shel Silverstein wrote that.
Well, he wrote some dandy songs over the years.
Yeah, but very unlike a lot of Shel Silverstein. He had a lot of novelty songs where this was such a beautiful one.
It was. Well, congratulations on that. I mean, that's a long time ago, but I don't care. That's a
Yeah.
huge success. And you, of course, have been extremely popular. The Midwest especially, I know, but you've traveled all over the place. Before we find out a little bit more about Pam, is there a favorite place that comes to mind that you have played over all these thousands of jobs you played over the years?
A favorite place?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, the Flame would have been one of them.
okay.
Being from South Dakota originally, it was my home state. I got into the South Dakota State Fair. We have our own stage there. So that became, I guess, one of my very favorite, it may be my favorite venue because we had our own stage and this is my home state.
Yeah.
And people came there from other states too to see me there. So we played the whole length of the fair and have every year since about 1973.
That's great.
And then in, it was 1980, some friends of mine from the little town of St. Stephen had a bar up there. And
That's in Minnesota.
in Minnesota, yeah. And so that was up by St. Cloud, and they asked me if I'd like to come up there and play a weekend because, there was a time period there in 1979, 80, where I disbanded my band and worked as a single for a while. So I went up there to actually work as a single. And then this lady that owned it said, there's a couple girls here that sing. So she introduced me to Patty and Pam, and Patty was her sister, a year younger than Pam. And so I got them up to sing, and I said, I'll put a band together again if you'll come with me. So when they got out of high school, they joined me, and we had a real nice band and toured all over the Midwest.
Yeah.
And so then eventually Pam's sister left the group and she went to Nashville and became Laurie Morgan's band leader, and then later was with George Jones for 8 years. But Pam stayed with my show, and at that time there was not a romance between me and Pam, but then after a while that did develop. And so in 1988, Pam and I got married.
And I remember your sister was kind enough to invite me. I got to sit with you and Sherwin
Yes.
when George Jones was at Jackpot Junction.
Yes.
And get a chance to see them, and I never would have had that chance. So.
Well, and Jones he was like grandpa
Yeah.
to her. I
Yeah.
mean,
I know she
he and
spoke very-
Nancy,
very
he and
highly of
Nancy
him.
treated Brittany like
Okay.
a daughter.
Well, let's take this opportunity. It's a good joining part that Sherwin led us into.
Yes.
Let's just back up briefly for you. I mean, we know you sang with your sister, very
Yes,
popular. So how did it all start for you?
I grew up in St. Stephen, Minnesota, 14 miles outside of St. Cloud. I grew up in town. I was a city kid, population 500.
Ah,
And so you looked out the front of the house, it was a county road. Looked out the back of the house, it was a cornfield. I was no more city than anybody else.
Oh.
I was just as country as the rest. And my parents owned a transportation company. I'm the oldest of 4 girls, and they had these two girls. Brittany and I are 14 months apart in age, and we just had this unquenchable passion for music.
Oh,
And they didn't know what to do with us. They really didn't, because they knew the transportation business. My father,
Sure.
they had school buses and
Oh, sure.
Greyhound buses that
Yeah.
went all over the country, and we don't have any boys. We have 4 girls, and they all want to be musicians. And so they took Brittany and I the first time to see Sherwin, Linton, and the Cotton Kings. It was Cleo B. singing, was the
Oh, yeah.
female singer at the time.
I remember clearly.
Red Freeman fronted the show. Dick Mobakken played bass.
Guitar. Yeah.
And Mike Gronke was drumming. And I think Mike is from the Buffalo area, I
Okay.
believe. And so it was an afternoon matinee, and they took us to see that show. And Sherwin got all the kids up around the stage, and he would do some special songs for the youth. And Brittany and I were too shy, and we were glued to our chairs. You weren't getting us out of those chairs. And so we watched all the other kids from afar. And then when I was 16, that is the Sherwin came to my hometown. Unbeknownst to my family, the owners of this little bar were friends of my parents, but they were also friends of Sherwin's.
Oh,
You know
okay.
how the Lord puts
Yep.
things together.
All of a
And
sudden it's
so we got up and we sang about 3 songs. I think we sang Delta Dawn,
Yeah.
and probably Paper Roses
Oh,
was
yeah.
big at that time. And then it was time for us to be out of the building. And so we went home, and probably 3 weeks later, about 9 o'clock on a Monday night, the phone rang, and my mother answered the phone, and it was Sherwin Linton on the phone.
oh,
And I have a show in Ainsworth, Nebraska, and it's an auditorium show. I'm putting a full band together for this show because he had been working as a single.
Yeah.
There was a time in the late 70s when finding musicians who would treat the music business like a business and not like a party
exactly.
was a little hard, and Sherwin was in the music business, not in the party business. And so he had disbanded. He was working by himself. And you've told me when you worked by yourself that you weren't going to drag an anchor behind you. If sometimes you've got all these people working for you, but they're a bigger albatross.
Mm-hmm.
And so if something went wrong, it was his own decision, and he
Yep.
was there to take care of the problem. And so we went out and did that first show. My dad had, because of the transportation business, he had a really good relationship with the superintendent of the high school where Brittany and I were going to high school. And he went in and saw him, and he said, I have 2 daughters. They're very active in music, and they have an opportunity, and I would like them to be able to take advantage of this opportunity. My father was very strict, and mother were Catholic, so we're
Sure.
very Christian, And
That's
so,
wonderful.
So Dad told us, you will go to public high school, you will be kids, you will graduate from public high school like everybody else, and whatever happens in this music thing can happen after high school, but we'll support you in what you
Oh, that's
wish
great.
to do. And so as I look back, I told my 2nd grade teacher I was going to be a singer. She, in my adult life, has come to me and said, you are the only 2nd grader who ever told me what you were going to be when you grow up, and actually went out and did it. Most 2nd graders want to be firemen and nurses and
Sure.
doctors. And I wanted to be a singer.
And it all came.
And it all came together. And so a great you know, like I said, I have a great faith, and the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Well, why don't we see some of that talent together? Because this is a good opportunity.
They made 650 of this particular model in the year 2000, and gave the Grand Ole Opry stars the first opportunity to buy them, and then people who had played the Grand Ole Opry got a letter.
Oh, nice.
It offered us an opportunity to buy one, and this is number 321 of 650.
That was a
It's got a
WSM
label.
radio. WSM radio, I know, had a lot to do
Yeah,
with that.
WSM, Grand Ole Opry,
Yeah.
right on
There you
the.
go.
Yeah, just like on their microphone stand.
Yeah.
Here's a song that I recorded in 1966, and it was released in '67, hit the charts, became kind of my signature song, called The Cotton King. They call me lucky little rich boy, got everything. He's the son of a cotton king. In a mansion down in Georgia, late one Sunday morn, my papa started passing out four-bit cigars. I had just been born. From that day on, he started giving me everything. The neighbors used to laugh and call me Silver Spoon. Papa was a cotton king. Papa was a cotton king. They call me lucky little rich boy, got everything. He's the son of a cotton king. Well, he grew all the cotton in the county. He had all the money too. I used to sleep on big silk sheets. I wore patent leather shoes. Some of my friends were poor folks, didn't have a thing. Sometimes it made me feel kind of bad. Papa was a cotton king. Papa was a cotton king. They call me lucky little rich boy, got everything. He's the son of a cotton king. Now I recall the bad years. Cotton wouldn't grow at all. Papa had to sell everything he had. Then Papa passed away that fall. Now Mama and me, we got a little place. We don't need a thing. I make a good living, working every day in the field for another man they call the Cotton King. They call me lucky little rich boy, got everything. He's the son of a cotton king. They call me lucky little rich boy, got everything. He's the son of a cotton king.
Yes, very good. Could not have Sherwin Linton in the house without hearing Cotton King. All right, that's going to do it for this segment of At the Music Store. We thank you for joining in, but we have a whole lot more to go because Sherwin and Pam were so kind to sit around and carry on more conversations, more fun stories, and a lot of great things in this great career that both of them have had for years and continue to have. And we invite you to join us next time on At the Music Store with Sherwin and Pam. Thanks for watching.
Well, when Cupid shot his dart, shot it at your heart. So if we ever part and I leave you, well, you say you told me and you told me, boy, that someday we'll all be through. That'll be the day when you say goodbye. That'll be